Okay, thank you, Aaron. Mr. Filner, the number of business closures and others leaving over the last year is staggering. What do you attribute this to, and what will you do to correct this trend?
We have, I'm sorry, 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
You know, the economy is in the valley here or across the United States, of course, is nowhere near than what we want as Americans. And we had come to the brink of a collapse with our banking system several years ago. We have moved back from that brink, but we have not yet created the jobs that is necessary to bring the full prosperity back to America. There's lots of ways to do that, and in the valley especially. You know, my plans for the valley, and I've worked with the councilmen and the mayors that are in this room, is to make Imperial County the alternative energy capital of the United States. We have put together a team of people, cross-section of this community, elected officials from federal, county, state, local level, IID, to say we want the tens of billions of dollars that were put aside for grants, for research, for manufacture, for distribution, for student training in alternative energy. Where else do we have sun 365 days a year but in Imperial County? So let us bring solar, let us bring wind power, let us bring geothermal, expand. We already have the biggest geothermal works in the nation right here in Imperial County. This is the future. This is the future in terms of our economic diversity. This is the future for thousands of jobs. Our students can be involved. Labor is involved. The whole county, the whole valley is ready to embark upon this venture, and that is going to bring us out of this recession that we have in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Filner. Mr. Popaditch, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
And funny, I never heard the how. I heard a whole lot of promises of what we're going to do, but I didn't hear the how. But let's start with the why. Why the businesses are leaving at a staggering rate. And it's because we're taking capital out of this community. We're taking capital out. The Bush tax cuts are up for renewal. They're up for renewal. We need to renew those Bush tax cuts and keep the revenue here in our district. Keep the revenue here. Your congressman was UA. Didn't even show up to debate that for your community. Now, 70% of our new jobs are going to be grown from small business. 70% of them are going to be grown from small business. If we don't renew that Bush tax cut on that upper percent, 75% of our businesses are going to suffer. They're going to suffer loss. We're not going to bring those jobs back. So the first thing we're going to do to fix it is to bring those Bush tax cuts back, lower the taxes, keep the revenue here in the community. Now, the next thing we need to do is deregulate. Stop putting the roadblocks up in front of business. But the Congressman brought up a lot of great green energy, and I'm not opposed to that. I believe in that. Just don't come to me with this, the earth has a fever logic, and I believe we could have this green energy. But we need to deregulate. There's a great individual, great American out there making diesel fuel out of manure. I said, this is brilliant. How much profit you turn with this? He says, I can't sell it because I can't get through the permits. We need to deregulate. We need to get the government out of the way. When I come out here all the time, I pass a wind farm every time, back and forth. I don't see them out here, but I see it on that Indian reservation. Deregulation is the key. We can bring that green energy, we can turn up power, but let's not prop it up with federal tax dollars, not prop it up with other people's money. And the final thing, let's get rid of the unknowns. Obamacare, cap and trade, stimulus is bleeding jobs from our community. It's causing small businesses to not hire. Let's repeal the That's the how.
Mr. Popaditch, you'll have the opportunity to answer this question first. Will you require federal enforcement of the current immigration laws in our district? If no, why not? And what is your alternative to stop illegal entry into the United States?
Will I enforce federal law on illegal immigration? Absolutely. We have every law in the books right now to enforce the law. We need to protect American jobs. Now, with a name like Popaditch, I'm obviously for legal immigration. My family's an immigrant family. My family didn't come over on the Mayflower. I'm not opposed to it, but you're going to use the door. You're going to come through the right way and come the right way. And if we can clean up the illegal immigration, we can open that quota a little wider so that it doesn't take you 12 years. Because if you come here for the American dream and you got little ones, they'll graduate high school before you ever get it. And the reason it takes so long is because of all the illegal immigration. We can clean up, we already have all the laws in place. We make it illegal for you to be here. We have all the laws to do that. We have 287G right here in the state of California that empowers those local law enforcement to assist those federal officers. Make it illegal to hire you, and we can do that through E-Verify. E-Verify, and we'll do that with a tax credit to incentivize small business to use it. And then finally, we'll cut social services to you if you're not a legal resident here. 12 million folks will That's my proposition for how to clean it up. We need to complete the border fence, $862 billion of stimulus, supposedly shovel-ready jobs. The president just admitted that he did lie to us when he said they were shovel-ready. He just admitted, hey, I didn't even know what a shovel-ready job was. Your congressman bought that, though. He bought that, $862 billion of our youth's money, our next generation's money. So we need to complete that border fence, empower local law enforcement. That way we can open up for legal immigration. And you farmers out there, I absolutely recognize there are jobs Americans won't work. I absolutely recognize there is a need for guest worker. We need to do it legally. We need to do it the right way. So I do understand there's a need for that. I support guest worker.
Mr. Filner, would you like me to repeat the question?
No. Obviously, critical issue for our area. And let me tell you one way not to do it, because I think my opponent supports the attempt in Arizona to preempt federal law and take an unconstitutional approach to those who are Thank you for your intelligent response.
Any heckling, I will stop the clock and give the candidate a chance to fulfill the time that you're taking. So please keep your voices down.
Let me repeat. The way not to do it is to take an unconstitutional approach as they did in Arizona. What makes this country different from virtually every country in the world is the fact that we don't need papers. If you're a citizen, you don't need papers. What is the first thing a totalitarian regime does? It requires papers, wants to know where people are and who they are. So you have people who will be stopped for not having papers who are citizens of this country. Only by racial profiling can you do that.
Please, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Filner, do you believe...
Wait, I'm not finished yet.
Okay,
I didn't have anywhere near 2 minutes ago.
my apologies.
Thank you. I got a lot more that I want to move, so let me keep going.
Let's add 15 seconds back.
And what we need here, and was not mentioned by my opponents, what we call comprehensive immigration reform. Comprehensive immigration reform. Yes, we have to secure the borders with more border patrol. Yes, we have to have a more streamlined approach toward guest workers as is exhibited in the so-called ag jobs bill that will be before us in Congress. And yes, we have to have a path toward citizenship for those who have been here for decades. No one has suggested deporting 20 million people. So what are we going to do? I think we have to establish people that go to the end of the line with fines, but to establish a path toward citizenship. That is what we're going to get out of comprehensive immigration reform.
Let's do one more set.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Popaditch had a question.
Yeah, can I offer a rebuttal to that?
Not in this segment.
Not in
Next
this
section. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Filner, do you believe that tax increases hurt job creation?
Sure, if you tax the middle class, and in fact, the so-called Bush tax cuts, which were referred to by my opponent, the Democratic Party wanted to pass 98% of those on the middle class of America, to free up the middle class to be more productive and to have that spending power. What the Republicans did is hold 98% of us, I suspect almost all of us in this room, from getting those tax cuts, holding hostage those to the 2% of our nation, those who make $1 million or more, also from getting those tax cuts. Those people will get several hundred thousand dollars in tax cuts. $1 trillion worth of revenue that could go toward decreasing the deficits, which I hear we're all concerned with. So yes, let's give the middle class the tax cuts that they deserve and have worked so hard for, but don't hold hostage those tax cuts to shill for the richest amongst us. The richest amongst us do not need those tax cuts at this moment. Let us free up the middle class to do the job right.
Thank you. Mr. Popaditch.
And of course, do I believe tax cuts incentivize?
Per job creation.
Per job creation. Tax cuts are the key to job creation. And I find it interesting that my opponent is out here running against what somebody in the room isn't talking. I wasn't there, so I don't know why he's running against me, and neither was he, to make the case for you. I absolutely believe in renewing the Bush tax cuts, and I would have made a case for you. I would have made a case for you. I wouldn't have been off campaigning. I would have been there making a case for you, that these tax cuts are absolutely necessary. My opponent voted against the last renewal of the Bush tax cuts in '06. So be careful what you're listening to out of him. He's got a record. He voted against them last time. 70% of our new jobs are going to come from small business. Small businesses are taxed at that rate. That what he's talking about, those wealthiest of Americans, that's small business. And I tell you, only somebody who's never had a job would say that, gee, thinks that the worker in our community goes to work every day and says, gee, I hope my employer loses money today. Only somebody who doesn't go buy his own groceries thinks that if you raise the tax on the grocery store owner, he's going to do anything other than raise the price of milk. The only difference is when we do it their way, where we take it away from those richest, and then you have to come to Prince Filner for a handout at some point. When we do it that way, you never get it back. You ended up with a 30% unemployment rate. We have a 12% unemployment rate on the other side of the hill. Washington, D.C., they've got full employment, 5% unemployment rate. This redistribution of wealth doesn't work. It's un-American. It's against the Constitution. I totally reject it. Tax cuts for every American. Lower tax rate will increase tax revenue, and we'll start paying down that deficit. We proved it in the 80s. Ronald Reagan proved it. Lower tax rate grew the GDP, and we worked down that deficit. Lower tax